Now, I don't know what you mean by that, and I don't think you know what you mean either. But what do you mean? What's wrong about being an animist? Because I go to the tree, I wish to cut down the tree as a firewood or to make a bed for my children or myself to lay on. And so I get there and say to the tree while watching the beautiful leaves tossing in the breeze, and I say to the tree, I have to speak to you and ask you permission to cut you down because I'm sorry. I realize that you're alive. How in the world I live in, I must use you. You are related to me, yes. We're in the same world. But my interrelationship with you, I have to use you in this manner in order to sleep. I will not cut you down just to put you in my living room to show my friends. I will do as some people do, the big hunter who comes to Kenya and with a telescopic lens 500 miles away almost, kill the lion, and is a big hero. He doesn't take the knife and go with his mouth and then grab the lion, give the lion a fair chance, and then kill. But now I'm talking to the tree, and I'm saying to the tree the reason, and you get there and say, look at that stupid man, he's talking to a tree. Well, I'm talking to a tree that thinks better than you do, so your Bible said he looked like a man, but he walked like a tree. That's what your ministers tell you. But is it a literal fact, or is he saying that a man might look like a man, but I walk like a tree? I don't move, I shake, I roll, I move, but still I'm steady. My both feet are standing at the earth at the same place. In our case, we are moving, but we're worse than the tree. We are worse than the tree because now we are talking about ecology. But your African ancestor, by talking to the tree, had his built-in ecology because he didn't cut down any tree for any frivolous reason. He cut down a tree only when it was basic to his livelihood. And there we come to the concept here of what's ethical, what's philosophical in the origin. The origin of taking cognition of what we have as an African people and not losing it.
Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochannan opens by challenging the idea that it is wrong for African people to practice their traditional African spiritual systems. He questions why Africans should feel ashamed for honoring their ancestral beliefs, especially when such shame is imposed by Europeans who expect conversion to foreign religions. Dr. Ben pushes back against the spiritual colonization, asserting that African spirituality is not only legitimate but vital to cultural and personal identity. He stresses that African people must stop seeking validation from their oppressors and begin reclaiming their spiritual foundations. Dr. Ben emphasizes that traditional African spiritual systems, particularly the principle of Ma'at, guided African people to live in harmony with nature and respect the environment that sustains them. These practices were deeply rooted in ancestral veneration and taught Africans to live with balance, reciprocity, and discipline. He contrasts this with the destructive impact of Western ideologies that separate people from the natural world and promote domination rather than cooperation. In reconnecting with these ancient systems, Dr. Ben argues African people can restore a sense of wholeness and environmental respect that once shaped their civilizations.
I noticed the book of Dr. Blyden has been reprinted outside there, and I'm glad for the person who brought it back. But then let us go back to Blyden since we brought the book and see Blyden spoke of this in another perspective. Blyden spoke of this in terms that we can't deal with it. We speak of our women in terms of a Christian background, morality, a Muslim background of morality, a Hebrew background of morality. We do not treat our women in an African, regardless of what country or what culture, from Africa background. That's one of the reasons for our plight, our struggle with our woman. She becomes a counterpart. We speak of our relationship between man and woman as if two soldiers on the battlefield. I went and I asked these young people up at Michigan, the next time you invite me, please invite me to a conference of black women and black men. I am tired of going to conferences of black women complaining about black men and black men complaining about black women. The reason you got to complain is because you can look at yourself. The night I went there, the first night, after the afternoon conference, they had a dance. I wasn't surprised. So they're going to forget everything they had during the day. But at the dance, I went there to look and see if black women are holding black men and black men are holding black women. And I stood there, and the young man or the young woman comes in front. I'm going to get up here this time. He comes, and there's a girl standing there, and he stopped. He made like this. She got up, and he made like this. And she doing the same thing. Never once did they touch each other. Never once. And then, being in the subway to show you how bad things are going, I was in the subway. I had enough courage to go down there, keeping my hand in my pocket for bluffing somebody that I had something. Because when I call the subway, I always do this, and then look mean for the brother figure, don't mess with him. But in the subway, I heard a young man, very nice, handsome-looking young man, holler to a very beautiful young lady, "Hey, bitch, come here." And the young lady came, "What you want, baby?" And he said, "Bitch, and I tell you." So I stood there. I thought he was speaking to a bitch, so I'm looking for the bitch. And I didn't see any female dogs. I know you're not supposed to have a dog unleashed or not unleashed in the subway. And then I wonder, how could he be speaking that kind of English to a dog? But when I realized this young lady responding, I said, "Oh, she's a bitch. Oh, she don't have 4 legs." So I couldn't withstand it anymore. I asked the young lady, "Did you hear what he called that other girl? He called her his bitch." And she said, "Yeah, that's his bitch." And I said, "Are you a bitch for somebody else?" She said, "Yeah, I got me." Yeah. So I said, I couldn't say, so I called up one of my granddaughters because I want to get this thing together. I know I'm getting to be a fossil. I'm getting rather old. And I said, "Tracy, are you a bitch?" She said, "Granddaddy." I said, "It's a good, I just asked." She said, "How could you ask me such a question?" I said, "Do you respond to a young man calling you a bitch?" She said, "No, that'd be the last time you talked to me." I said, "Just want to check. I want to check." So, and I called a few of them. I called a few of them to find out if this was the general thing. I found out it was the general, but there were 1 or 2 young ladies who had the decency left in them yet to refuse a young man, and that will, if a young man ever say to her, they will never speak to him again. But the reason all of this happened is because we were given the false premise that we were told in the first place down and in the kind of to look down on our women, so therefore we could call them any name at all. We were even told, and our daughters are told, that a man can't even look at her as a sexual object. Most women and black women I met today, he looking at me like I'm a sex object. You damn right. when I look at you, good as you look like a sexual object. I don't look at no man as no subject object. Ain't nothing he got that interests me. But when I look at you, good as black women look, you're damn right. My mind is going like a clock. You got me, when I look at you sisters, you get to me. I don't know about these brothers, they may be sick with some problem, you know, that need a urologist. But even at 73, I get turned on when I look at the sisters, and that's any one of you, even if you're with your husband. But I got a control mechanism that said, "Dung boy, you got to behave yourself." But I still, you see, anytime you're going on with this sick European woman, that their husband look at them as a piece of furniture, or they go to buy a new dress, and the dress and them, you know, so they come in to tell you, and you fell for it, that if the man, a brother look at you good as you look, then he is supposed to see nothing sexual about you. Then why should he talk to you about marriage? Ain't nothing sexual. You want a marriage with a faggot? You want to marry celibate? I mean, then you need to marry a Frankfurter. Just go to the store and order a dozen. No, you see, I want to talk to you, and frankly, see, you notice that I'm not going on to all this highfalutin English talk. I'm talking to you basic, because nobody has spoken to you, obviously, basically. We all come to show you how good we did taking our PhD. And that PhD is jamming us up everybody else with this and other things. So basically, what this suggests to me, the title today, Understanding Al-Kebalan's Original Philosophical Ethical Masterpiece, is a masterpiece that the Africans created, our ancestors, way back there. If we now had stand by this masterpiece, I do not mean that we have to go around, get rid of your car, you decide to go to the airport walking from here to Newark Airport. I don't mean that. Jump on the biggest turkey you see and try to ride it. I don't mean that. Not even jump on a jackass back and try to go to the airport, because the plane gonna be in the next place and you ain't gonna be at the airport yet. I don't mean that, but I mean the fundamental principles for which our ancient ancestors stand. Those fundamental principles we can apply in modern life today. I could be driving a 12-year-old car and still dealing with modern fundamentals. It is a mistake that we tell our children, and we agree with our children, that we are in two different worlds, and that we're in you got another thing you call about the child is in something, I forget what it said, but it indicates that the child is at a different life than you. There's the impossible generation gap. If you are living today, and your child is living today, you are in the same generation. You are still in the same world. You are still thinking, and hopefully you are thinking that much that you can advise your child, your grandchild, and great-grandchildren, and so on, forth. So it's a myth to tell the child that we are operating in a different generation. If your child is not dressed properly, and some of you trying to outdress your children in ignorance, I mean, some of you are so dressing that you're standing up and I see the bottom of your drawers, and then you tell me it's the style. Now, how in the world your teenage daughter is trying to hide herself, and you got your ass showing? I mean, let's say what it is. Let's say what it is. And then you come in the subway. If you're standing up, I see in the bottom of your drawers. Now you decide to sit down. And I'm a vigorous man, sitting on the opposite side, and you can't get your drawers down much as your dress. And I angle myself to get a proper angle that I can see the stuff, because it's cute stuff. And then you watch me and say I'm a dirty, old man. There's nothing dirty about me. I am healthy. It's good stuff to see, and I want to look at it. The fact that you got good stuff and don't know you got good stuff is not my fault. I know it's good stuff. I know it needs protection from me. I know you need to build up a curiosity in me to want it. And I know I'm supposed to fight for it. But you're telling me you didn't fight. Here it is. You could touch the shaman anytime you want. No. We gotta say, because I see two young ladies right here in front of me. We gotta set for the men. The brothers now got pants. The pants are so tight in the behind. The other day I wanted a pair of trousers, and I put on the thing. I said, damn, this feels like a girdle. I haven't had a girdle, but I saw my daughters when they were young putting on girdles. That time they used to wear girdles. And this thing looked just like a girdle. I see the sisters, they must grease themselves and jump on the roof down to get at these things. I mean, we got to come back to some sanity. If you understand who's designed the clothes down in the garment industry, then you understand that them faggots are trying to, what they're trying to do is disgrace you. They're putting you in such clothes that your men get disgusted of them so that they could get your man. You understand? You understand? If they make you look like your man, why should the man want you? Ain't got no problem with him. They get sex and they ain't got no expense because he ain't gonna get pregnant, don't care how we try. Therefore, he doesn't. You get the picture. Now, one has to, we are coming together and dealing with all these philosophical things, but not bringing the esoterical part. We're talking about the esoterical. And forget the exoterical, that one isn't separate from the other. It's like me, you in the street, and you get hit by a car, and a doctor comes up, and he says, oh, she got compound fracture of the leg. But I can't touch her because I'm a heart man. No, he been to school, medical school. He learned the entire body. But he decided to specialize on the heart. You mean to tell me he can't deal with a compound fracture? The other day I went to a doctor, I won't call the name, and the man had to give me draw some blood. He had to call his nurse because he hadn't taken blood in a long time. Now I could have died because I need that damn thing. What kind of a doctor has reached to the point that he can't take some blood? He's lost that skill. So it meant that all he could do is handle a heart. And that's what I mean, is that we have modernized, with quotation marks, ourselves to the point that the ethics, the ethical mastery, the ethics within even medicine. Can you imagine me calling Imhotep and said to Imhotep or his mother, or any of the physicians there, or any of the physicians who left us medical treatises going back as far as 2000 before the Common Era, and say to them, you know, a man is down the street, a woman is down the street, she broke her leg, she has a compound fracture, and he said to me, no, I can't handle her because I only deal with the heart. And talking about the heart, we have to stop dealing with the heart as an abstract. I love you, young ladies. You don't love nobody with your heart. You love with your mind. You understand? Let your mind do the thinking. When you love with your heart, that's when you get in trouble. Because the heart doesn't love. It has no capacity to love. The heart is a muscle, the biggest muscle in your body. And its only function is pumping the blood. That's the only function. It is a myth to say, and I don't care what book it's written in, you love with your heart. No. We must we're dealing with the reality. You call brother come to you and act not brotherly and persist in misbehavior, you then use your mind and reject him outwardly from the mind to your lips and tell him what has to be told. Don't wait on your heart to do anything, because you're going to be pregnant before the heart say anything. Now, these are things that we need to know, and we need to know them by virtue of the certain respectability I need to call on. And this I have not seen. I had to speak to some of the brothers and sisters up at the conference, because I had seen a few sisters at the conference and they were pregnant. And there's nothing wrong with pregnancy, and there's nothing wrong with pregnancy when you're young. My mother was 19 years old when she got pregnant with me, but there was something else besides the pregnancy. My father had paid her the proper respect, and therefore he had won the rights for the most gracious thing she had, heaven. You see, my father knew that heaven wasn't someplace in the air beyond where the airplane goes. My father knew that my mother had heaven, and his mother had heaven. And heaven is the place that all of us came from. It is so my father addressed her with a proper respect for her to give him the authority, the key to the doors of heaven to enter.
Another key theme in Dr. Ben's lecture is the sacred and respectful relationship between men and women in African societies. He explains that African traditions fostered balance between the sexes, not conflict or hierarchy. The devaluation of women, particularly the treatment of black women as second-class citizens or mere sex objects, is a learned behavior passed down from the oppressors. Dr. Ben urges the audience to understand that if black men do not respect black women, they cannot claim to respect themselves or their communities. He sees this as a foundational issue in the ongoing liberation struggle. Dr. Ben argues that modern African people have lost their moral compass because they have abandoned the principles of their ancestors. Without those grounding values, he says, many now engage in self-destructive and degenerate behavior. Instead of living by the ethical framework provided by Ma'at, too many have traded their integrity for acceptance in a white-dominated world. Dr. Ben mourns the moral erosion that comes from this betrayal, stating that people have turned on one another in pursuit of validation from their oppressors. This, he says, has led to an emotional, reactive culture that lacks the critical thinking needed to resist domination. In conclusion, Dr. Ben calls on black men and women to recognize their shared destiny in the fight against white supremacy. He emphasizes the need for unity, mutual respect, and the rebuilding of the black family. By returning to the values of Ma'at, truth, balance, order, and justice, African people can begin to reclaim their dignity, rebuild their communities, and forge a path to liberation. Only by healing the relationship between black men and women and restoring ancestral principles, they can break the cycle of oppression and regain control over their destiny.